Hello, everybody. This is Peter Exodus O'Coffer, and welcome back. Doing restarting season 2 of the Level Up podcast, and so these episodes will be a little longer than the video show. Today, I'm doing branding in your 50s. Down the road in season 2, I'm mostly going to do a couple of longer episodes on specific artists, particularly Prince, because I can't do Prince in the short form because it's Prince, and that's my guy. But I'm going to do what I call duels and trios. So I'm going to do an episode on Stax and Motown and see how they branded off each other, looking at the 50s and the sort of the titans of early rock and roll, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, and Elvis. And looking forward to this episode, but I'm going to do one on the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and the Who, and then I'm going to also, will be trios for a while, but then I think at the end of that I'll discuss how Queen has overtaken the Beatles and why, and I sort of allude to that a little bit in my Michael Jackson episode as well. So the 50s, I'm 56, and it's a time, this is the time when you start reassessing. I mean, you had goals and stuff, in your 20s and 30s, and, if you're married and have kids, the kids are probably out of the home and live, they're adults and doing their things. So, so it's a time of reassessment and seeing, what you've accomplished and where you want to go. It's also a time, it's also often associated with midlife crisis as well. A lot going on in the 50s. It's interesting, the first generation in the 50s with social media, so you can kind of see where your peers are at and kind of what they're doing, and that's good and bad, I guess. But yeah, a lot going on in your 50s. A lot of struggling for some people. Reassess, what you've done, what you've accomplished. It can be quite painful for some people. So, yeah. So how, as from a branding perspective, how do you how do you deal with that? Because for some people, they had dreams and they weren't realized, and everybody comes here with a different purpose. And for some folks, they just wanted to live day to day and minute to minute and make a positive impact on people's lives. And there are actually a lot of folks like that, and got married, had kids, and their goal in life was to raise good kids. Simple and basic, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And for some people, maybe they had big dreams and they didn't achieve them, but they have kids that they're proud of. So yeah, it's a time. The 50s is a time of reassessment as you go on, face retirement and things like that. But it's a time to, I think, where wisdom is developed if it's done properly. Some people, are bitter and broken and give up. Other people, by the 50s, you've made a lot of mistakes in life. Some of them you were able to fix, but some can't be fixed, and some you just have to deal with it. Nobody's lived a perfect life, and a lot of things there's a lot of transitions in your 50s, and so it's about managing your transitions and trying to figure out where you're going to go, who you're going to be for some people, and ultimately who how you want to be remembered, and some for some of us. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the 50s. That's why I think it's associated with the what's that term? Midlife crisis. So the 50s are kind of what you learned, in your first half century, and how are you going to apply the lessons. Now, one of the things I try not, I try to be more complex. So, as I talk about personal branding, so I do think what I do is self-help, but I'm not deluded or to think that, hey, if you think positive thoughts and are happy and whatever, life will be okay. I mean, we live in a very, 20, 30 years ago, in the simpler world, yeah, positive thoughts would go a long way in a happy life. And don't get me wrong, I still think positive thoughts, but in this world, in this day and age, problem solving, coping is very important. It's a complicated world, and you can't shelter yourself, in this world. There's a lot of, this world changes quickly. There's a lot of dynamics, and stuff is going to find you whether you want to or not. Bad stuff. So it's just a different world. So I try to bring in the nuances. I try to do the traditional self-help stuff too, but I'll be the first to admit that sometimes you just the storm's going to come, and you're just going to have to buckle down and do the best you can. I think in this world, there's the key skills are patience, problem solving, persistence, and strength. Um, I've read a lot of self-help books over the years, and still that stuff is still relevant. But you need that stuff plus those things I just named, because it's a crazy mixed up world. I don't know. That's all out of a song, and I should know the name of the song, but I don't. But that's just reality. I guess I was kind of lucky in my 20s because, I didn't have a clear goal, and to be honest with you, until 5, 10 years ago, even sooner than that, in the last couple years, it's finally coming together to me. But my general goal was just to make a difference in the world. So I learned early in life that I was not kind of that guy who can plan stuff out and have a 5 to 10 year plan, because too many stuff early on in my, even high school and in my 20s just comes along in my life and just kind of, kicks crap over and makes a mess of my life. So I'm like, yeah, if I start making 5 to 10 year plans in my life, I'm going to be very miserable. And so luckily I learned that quickly and didn't do that. I have a lot of friends back in the day who could do that, and, would run into them periodically, and then, um, befriended them on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, they talked about their goals, and, they did a lot of that stuff, and happy for them. But, luckily I figured out early on that wasn't going to be me. So, got into music, in my 20s, and the first thing I remember 12, 13 years old, I told myself I want to be a DJ. I fell in love with music. Didn't do that, but, then wrote my own songs, and, became a little bit of a musician there in my 20s. And for a variety of reasons, I think I've discussed them more in other episodes, but, drifted away from music for a while. And then I started writing in my late 20s and early 30s, and so and wrote for years. Writing is, particularly science fiction and fantasy, But you got to world build, and you just don't jump in and start forming characters and writing. I mean, you expected a world build, and it takes a while, and it takes seasoning and living of life to really build an interesting world, and stuff like that. So it took me a while. Uh, Late 90s, real early 2000s set out, had some things. And actually, I didn't, it wasn't until 2007, 8, 9, 10 when I, switched over and started doing science fiction and fantasy. So, those first years I was doing street lit, out of my love for, The Invisible Man, and The Outsider, The Outsider, Richard Wright, and Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. So those were kind of my guideposts, and then I realized, that the first half of the 2000s, that first decade, the late into that, I'm like, well, write your passion, and that was, remembering my love for Star Wars and for Marvel Comics. So that kind of led to my transition into science fiction fantasy. But I also took some of that street lit that I wrote too, so into that, and kind of merged all that together. So I was 49 when I self-published my first novel, and I had a pretty good idea that somehow, some way, I was going to publish a novel, and it got easier, obviously, with ebooks, and Amazon made it very easy to at least get it published and get high quality physical copies, paperbacks in your hand to sell. So I made a general goal in my early 40s to publish my first novel by 50, and it was a soft goal, because I was like, hey, if I don't get it, I don't get it. But I beat that. My first novel came out at 49. So that's the story with that. I actually got back into music. I was playing around, on my iPad one night. And GarageBand, was sat on here. I mean, I've been an Apple guy since 2009 when the iPhone came out, and I got deep into that, and I was like, wait a minute, GarageBand has all of this, and I can do this now. Oh, I couldn't do this back in the day. So I, walked away from music and never, even though it's my first love, never really thought that I would ever, release music. And at the time, I had no idea that, with digital uploads and CD Baby and DistroKid and I think TuneCore, those are the three main ones that independent artists use. I didn't even know they existed. So to make a long story short, I, put out my first album at 52. Never, I mean, I'm glad, that technology allowed me to do that. And technology allowed me to do, writing too. I mean, I probably, without ebooks, probably would not have found a publisher, to be honest with you. Certainly would not have, at my age, at 52, nobody's going to sign, no record company's going to sign me and put me out as a new artist. So I was kind of blessed with technology that I was able to do some of that. And now, of course, I have my first YouTube channel at 56. So when I was, in my 20s, YouTube didn't even exist. I had no concept of doing a YouTube channel. So, my, I guess my story is, try, just, and if you had goals that you wanted to do, it's not too late. I've done more than I expected to do for my 20s, because I never expected to be, to have the blessing to put, release music. And for that matter, I mean, with all the rejections, I knew I would get rejections because I knew, my writing was different. And I figured, hey, I mean, all I can do is write the novels and hope for the best. And I told myself going through the 30s and writing, it was just like, yeah, I mean, I at least have to try and write the novels and do the best I can. And if it doesn't go anywhere, then at least I tried and won't have any regrets. Well, a good technology came out and I was able to release my novels. And even a bigger blessing is, with digital music, I'm able to also release my music. So, hey, I've done everything I dreamed of doing it, in my 20s. You know, how it does commercially doesn't, hey, I like my stuff. That's all that counts. If I never go viral, that's fine too. You know, um, you know, some folks will find me. I don't know, the I mean, the era of megastars, how much longer is that going to last? I don't know. I mean, there's so many. I was just thinking earlier today. There's so much out there to grab people's attention. In the early '90s when I was made that, did my music, and then into the mid '90s and transitioned to writing. I mean, the internet. I didn't even know I think it was 96, 97 when the internet broke. So I mean, pre-internet. I mean, you had cable and I think the beginnings maybe of PlayStation. I don't know. But you didn't have any Netflix. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have TikTok. You didn't. You know. It's harder these days, and I'm going to do a whole episode on the music industry. On all things music, talking about how even the music industry is um, recalibrating what success is, because there's so many things out there competing for people's attention, particularly young folks under 30. I mean, you got video games, you got Netflix, you got TikTok, you got Facebook, you got this platform here, YouTube, plus music, plus the movie theater, plus and I'm probably forgetting something, but binging TV shows on Netflix. I mean, uh, and if you're a sports fan, you have every single NFL game at your fingertips, every single NBA game, MLB. So there's a lot of stuff out there competing for people's attention, and in some ways I'm in old mediums, books and music. I'm on a new medium with YouTube. But it's interesting. Sort of reminds me of American Gods that Stars. I read the book too, but Stars. If you watched American Gods, you got the old gods and you got the new gods. Well, you got the old artistic platforms and styles, and you got the new ones. And so it's just interesting how all that plays out. So, oh, and then my journey as well. So, yeah, at Purdue in graduate school, I taught, and that was a excellent experience, one of my favorite experiences in life. And that was going back to my goal in my 20s of making a difference. So that was part of that. Then I have been a legislative assistant for the Indiana House of Representatives, working for the Democrats now for, I guess, 21 years now. So that's another way I made a difference. And then, of course, you add on to that having a venues to release my art to the public, just enhances all that. So, I get, branding in the 50s, three things the way I look at it is, you've done okay and you know, met a lot of your goals. You haven't met your goals, and it's time to see, well, do I need to recalibrate. Can I still do these goals like I did in my with writing and with music, or chances are, most of the goals you had, you can still do. Now you may not blow up and get the acclaim that maybe you wanted as a younger person, but most of it's there. And how do you deal with your mistakes? Because we all have made some pretty bad mistakes, and that's just part of being human. And so, I mean, the one thing, going into self-help, again, I said earlier, I mean, this is a crazy, fucked up world sometimes that we live in, but I'm going to put on the self-help hat for just a second, the old school one, and, don't give up. Um, even if you have to, there's branding and you're constantly rebrand. So rebrand yourself and make something of where you're at now. Hey, if you made a lot of mistakes, then turn those mistakes into ways of helping people and giving back and teaching. But don't give up. Uh, and there's, most of us do some sort of rebranding, a lot of rebranding in our 50s. So, even if we consider ourselves successful and we've done pretty well when it comes to, achieving our goals and dreams. And most of us probably won't achieve all of our goals and dreams, but that's okay. It's about the journey, and we got something, interesting to tell the grandkids, and, we can teach them, and they can learn from our mistakes. So, yeah, that's the gist of this, sort of, takeaways, you know, it's a rough world out there. So, brand, rebrand, but don't give up. So appreciate you listening to this. Appreciate your support. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. I got music, 4 albums. It's here on YouTube on the channel and all the streaming services, and I do have 2 science fiction fantasy novels and 1 novella that is available on Amazon. So appreciate your support in any way, but hey, if you're just listening, you're getting something out of this, that's fine too. So see you next episode.